Welcome to the Registry Insider. I'm Bill Seifarth, CEO and Executive Director for the National Registry of EMTs. And today we're filming from Accreditcon, the co-MSP's accreditation conference in Anaheim, California. And joining me for today's episode are 5 state EMS officials. And the topic of today's episode is the role of state EMS officials specific to education, and how they oversee EMS education programs, how they work with accreditation and incorporate it within their programs in their respective states. And they play a very important role in this systems approach to EMS education. So thank you all for taking time and braving this conference to come and talk with me a little bit about your role that you play in state EMS officials, as a state EMS official. If you wouldn't mind, let's go around the room. I'll have them all introduce themselves, and we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Tim Reitz. I am the Pennsylvania EMS Education Manager at the Pennsylvania Department of Health, Bureau of Emergency Medical Services.
Good.
And I'm Melissa Etzweiler. I'm a Program Specialist in Education, also at the Pennsylvania Department of Health, Bureau of EMS.
I'm Katie Schlichting. I'm Iowa Health and Human Services, Bureau of Emergency Medical and Trauma Services.
Cool.
Amanda Kinney, Education Coordinator for the state of Michigan.
John DeArmond, Bureau of Emergency Medical Services, State of Maine, Education Testing Coordinator.
Cool. So we have New England State. We have that state up north, as we say, Ohio,
Go Blue.
Pennsylvania, and Iowa as well. So thank you all for joining me. So let's kick it off here with a simple question or a high-level overview. What's your day-to-day role look like as regulators and state EMS officials specifically focused on education? Go ahead, Tim.
As we all look around, right? So I think on a day-to-day basis, we're there to not only make sure that our educational institutes are following the regulations that are put forth by the state, but that they're also looking to make sure that they're hitting that whole system approach. Are they making sure that their students are qualified to be able to go take a national registry exam that is used the majority of the time for state certification as well? And then how are they actually meeting any accreditation needs from the national level, from co-EMSP? And from our role, how can we help them do that?
So you're from the government, you're here to help. That's the
we are here to help. And I think that's a big thing, is that sometimes the EMS providers think that we're there to just hammer down on them, and that's not the case. We want people to be successful, and that's what accreditation is all about, assuring that people are successful, protecting the public, and protecting the students as well.
Good. So that is a something that's codified in your statute, in your regulations, but also in the Constitution as well. That role that states play to ensure safety over their citizens, and in this case, in your role, the safety, well-being, and quality for the students who are enrolled in classes. Yeah, so good. Any other aspects or roles that you want to highlight as far as what you all do in a day-to-day job as EMS regulators?
Interacting with the public, knowledge, or educating them on what we need to do. A lot of misconceptions of what's easy to put on an EMT course or a paramedic program. That is simply not true. And just walking them through that process, both on the public level and within the governing body, because the representatives are representing their community. They think it's easy, but a lot of education on that side. I'm biased. I'm very proud of our programs. I have great program directors, so we are pretty much lockstep in how to educate the public plus our students.
Good. So that public role, or that public facing aspect of your role, is an important element. Again, aligned with protecting the public, being advocates for the students, and you have to be stewards of your citizens' money. So there has to be standards in place for the education. So that makes sense. Okay. So a lot of roles that you play obviously are regulatory roles. Some of which to serve the public and help the EMS programs in there. What are some of the challenges you're facing right now as we are now at the middle of 2025 and accreditation is well underway for AEMT in a few states? What are some of the challenges you're facing in your respective states?
I know from my end, we have a fairly big turnover of program directors. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I've been doing is with new program directors as they come in, I do a one-on-one meeting with them for about a half hour to go over some FAQs, like frequently asked questions. I give them some tips and tricks, but it also allows them an opportunity to get to know Amanda as a person and not just Amanda, the state director. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Of
Yeah.
education.
It's a relationship. That's important.
Definitely.
Build up the
Yeah.
relationship.
And hopefully they now feel comfortable coming to me when they have questions. I'd rather have them ask the question instead of assuming they're doing something the right way so that we can fix it right off the bat.
Good. So that's kind of a way to proactively address challenges by establishing that relationship, so you don't have to worry
Yeah.
down the road with the big hammer. You can go in there as the nice Amanda.
Correct.
What are some other challenges you're all facing right now? It's obviously workforce, that's universal funding, but specific to education, what are some of the challenges you're facing in your respective states in addition to turnover of program directors?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think ensuring that resources are available to our educators as regulations change, as standards change. One of the things that we are in the unique position to do across our state is to see what those best practices are. Programs are created in many different formats. Some are in high schools, some are affiliated with a college, some are affiliated with a hospital. So each one of those different types of programs, of course, introduces a different type of challenge and perks, right? So each of those programs might have a different benefit or an offering that they can give to their students that others may not. So in our positions as regulators and having that relationship, we're able to kind of give those best practices or what we know works over here and share that.
Especially with finite resources and dwindling resources in many states. That's, I think, a big asset that the state offices provide the education communities. Best practices, there's more than one way to success, and you can share those, and that's you can be a conduit for that success. So pretty cool.
Yeah. And that challenge comes, like she said, when our program directors change.
Yeah.
That does change the culture oftentimes inside an institute. So just kind of being able to foster that and, again, continuously provide those resources is a challenge I think we might probably all face.
And I think going back to the program directors change, it is also that continuity of operations. Not only do we see the program directors change, but instructors are brought in. They just finished taking an instructor course, and now they're thrown into the front of, I need to run this program. And as you said earlier, EMS education is not the way that it used to be. You could probably go to the back of the firehouse and be able to be trained how to do something. We're now seeing that as our scope of practice expands, we're becoming seen as more of a profession. And that is very difficult for our community to understand and take under that. And it does add in then to the financial issues that many people in our community run into.
Interesting. The other thing is stability, is that if we have a relationship with our program directors, and I'll use two of my program directors as an example, is that we talk at least 3 times a week. Now, we're a smaller state, relatively speaking, but we've developed over a shorter period of time that if we have a problem, we can identify that problem immediately, because if they're having a problem, somewhere up and down the state, they're having the same issue. They just haven't vocalized it. The relationship for stability, not just with the programs and within the state, but also for the students. Because when they see an unstable program, they get really scared and say, is this where I need to go, or is this where I should be? And if we can provide that guidance or that foundation, that's a huge thing.
Which gets back to relationship, which was mentioned earlier, as well as that role. You're kind of the central hub in the states that the program directors can go to. They're the ones they can go to when there's problems, when there's turnovers, when there's instructor shortages. So you're that resource and you're that regulator. That's what I'm hearing. It's a common theme. Are there any other challenges you all are facing in addition to the ones we mentioned within the respective states? And kind of the follow-up question to that, what are you doing about it as regulators? I think you've already answered that. You're the resources, you're the central hub they can go to, you're that person to whom they can relate in the state office and have a trusted partnership with. Because as I said when we kicked off, this is a systems approach. You don't do your job in isolation. The registry doesn't do our job in isolation. Medical directors don't do their job in isolation. Program directors don't do their job in isolation. we work together. We each have our own respective roles, but it is a true systems approach to ensuring quality EMS education. So the role that you all play, I think, is vitally important, and I often feel it's underappreciated and undervalued. So first of all, let me just say thank you for all you do and serving your respective states. It's a tough job, that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit about accreditation. What role does accreditation play within each of your states? Obviously, we're at Accreditcon. There's 5 of you here from state offices participating. What role does accreditation play, and how does that help you do your jobs in your respective states?
I probably have unique insight because my first introduction to COA and Dr. Hatch and staff was Amanda, a Green program director, starting an EMT and paramedic program from the ground up, right? So I have to do the state application, and then there's the COA standards application. I need to be able to get that letter of review to hold my first paramedic course. So I wanted to make sure that I was off to a right start and I was doing things correctly. I reach out to Dr. Hatch and I get a voicemail, which I wasn't shocked about, right? So I leave a voicemail and I continue on doing my thing. And I think it was like less than 24 hours later, and I was sitting in my office and the phone rings and it's Dr. Hatch saying, Amanda, I'm so sorry. It took me so long to return your call. And I'm thinking to myself, it's been less than 24 hours, right? But he's like giving me direction, and he's telling me, you need to be able to fill out the LSSR, and then you should really go to the NAMC conference because I'm going to be there and some of my staff's going to be there. And so I remember like hanging up the phone and feeling supported, right? But I also had the confidence now to continue on and just feeling like I can do this. So I offer that feedback and my personal experience to new programs, especially if they want to start a paramedic class, because they need to realize that the staff is there to help them with this process. And I tell them, reach out, contact them. And it's funny because people will tell me afterwards, like, hey, I got a hold of Dr. Hatch, and they actually answered their phone. And I kind of chuckle to myself and I tell them in my best mom voice, right? Like, I told you so.
Good.
So,
So that systems approach to helping you do your job of ensuring quality education in your states, which is fundamental.
yeah. And I think we all have the same end goal, right? Like, we want our students to be successful. We want them to be compassionate, confident, and competent providers.
Yep.
And if they are, our programs are successful. So we all do need to work together to ensure this is happening consistently.
Yeah.
We're all about patient care. We're just doing it a different avenue. We're not hands-on. We're teaching, obviously, or supporting the academic process. But our goal is to take care of people. And then by default, our students. So they're a reflection of what we try to adhere to and uphold.
Because if there's quality education, there will be a higher likelihood of quality patient care.
Absolutely.
Good. Strong correlation. What other roles do you feel, any other thoughts in terms of what role accreditation plays and how it helps you, how it allows for, obviously a more quality education, consistent education, but any other thoughts on that?
I think that, from going from a program director to now being in a state role, I've encouraged people to realize that this is an evaluation. Accreditation is an evaluation 365 degrees of your program. It gets to see what your administration is about, gets to see how your students are performing, and it takes a look at your policies to protect the student, to protect the public, and to protect the institute. And, my first time as a program director coming in and say, why do I need an advisory committee to tell me these are my goals? Until I find out that my community member who doesn't know a thing about EMS goes, well, why don't they understand about this? And then you realize that, wow, we had an untapped resource that was here, and now we can add that into our program. So I think that's what accreditation does, whether it's from national level or the state level. It really does help us to help the institutes to be able to move that forward and address the needs of the community that currently exists and how best to do that.
Good.
Good point. I would also say, like, looking at the standards and having to create a paramedic program, you can really tell that they're laying the foundation and the framework to make sure that your program's successful and your students are successful. And then you can build upon that. And I think that's super helpful for anyone that's starting a program. Like, that's all there for you. They're leading you into the right direction.
Right. There is so much misconception, fake news, if you will, about registry, as we know from the years, and COA. COA is not, they're not the problem. They're here to help. That if we fail, our programs fail, then our communities fail and our systems fail, and there's no one to take care of patients. Because COA, again, to your point, is a foundational aspect. They want us to succeed. They do. They're not the devil, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with you that obviously National Registry and COA EMSP are often the targets. I think that's a fair statement. If you doubt that, go to social media.
Oh yeah,
and check. So,
I think because it just was dawning on me that one of the things that I think that viewers and hopefully anybody that else is watching this at some point is that we spend a lot of time, I think, from the COA standpoint of we look at paramedic, we look at AEMT, but the two other levels that we look at is EMR and EMT, and that's where the states really have a huge role because we have to help oversee those programs as well, and they are doubling those numbers. So it really becomes one of those things that I think that, at least for us, is that we do run into that problem of a college or a sponsor has 5 or 6 different locations where they have instructors, and how do we reach all those, and how do we help communicate and find out exactly what it is that they need? So that's one of the other roles I think that also becomes a little bit of a challenge because that network doesn't always seem to be right there for the EMR to EMT as it is for the AEMT and paramedic level.
Yeah, and frankly, there is still no standard for EMT or EMR education programs. No national standard for it.
But I know what we can do across with using accreditation as a benefit and as a resource to our states is those we can use the data, right? And the data is something that we can't argue with and we can't necessarily explain, but we can show you that BLS programs, so for the EMR or EMT that are affiliated with a paramedic accredited program, that their results and their standards are much higher and much better. And whether it be because, again, the administration is used to that format and that structure and maintaining those standards, we can definitely see that correlation between an accredited program affiliated with a BLS institute, if you will.
And that's one thing in Iowa. I have 21 training programs. 13 are accredited. So of the other, eight, when we go to do the site visits, we use the same criteria that COA has and KF has to make sure that they're on that same path, doing the same things, have the same requirements. And then if they decide to jump up and get into the ALS levels, then they're already prepared and it's not, a slap in the face of, I have all of this to do. And
like Amanda had to do.
Yeah, like Amanda had to do, exactly. Yeah.
Good.
So we've kind of adapted what they do just to.
So you've kind of replicated it for the BLS
for BLS levels, yeah. And then when we go I go to every one of them that COA does. And it's great to see the different people that you get to meet. One of them is here today, so it was nice to see him. He remembered me. It's again, you are somebody. You're not just somebody from the state that's here to sit in on something. Like they know you as well, and they're a great resource for things that if we don't know on the state level. If somebody asks me a question, I'm like, well, let's call COA, and it's a great group of people. And the paramedic levels, I mean, there's no difference. We try to do the higher education, the same standards across the board, no matter if it's a BLS training program or an ALS program.
Good. Well, I appreciate you all spending time with me today to kind of demystify this role that the regulators play at the state level, specific to education. It's an important and a fundamental role, and it's one that works in the system of EMS education nationally. So I appreciate certainly you spending time, but also equally important, more important, what you do in your respective states, because it is a sacrifice to work as a bureaucrat. I'm a recovering and a recovering state official. So I can empathize and relate to it. So, but thank you again, and appreciate you spending time with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you as well. And as always, stay safe. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you wouldn't mind, please click the like and subscribe buttons, as well as the notifications so you can get notifications of upcoming episodes. Also, for the latest and greatest happenings of the National Registry, feel free to go to nrmt.org. Thank you very much. And again, stay safe.